to Aware. We are dedicated to communicating information that inspires your positive growth and change. Are you interested in a peaceful planet? Are you interested in optimal health? Are you living with purpose? Are you enjoying your life? We realize each person can make a difference, and our mission is to empower your awareness. The choices that you make in every moment shape your life, and we encourage you to realize that you have your own answers and to always listen to your own truth. We invite you to stay aware.
Hi, I am Lisa Garr, host of The Aware Show. It is my honor to be here today to broadcast to you information that inspires positive growth and change, and that is exactly what we're doing today. You know, one of the lessons that I feel personally that we have learned from this pandemic as a humanity is we've really learned that we're stronger together, so much stronger together than alone. We've seen this with the companies and the countries that have come together to find solutions to make this a post-pandemic world. Solutions with the vaccine, solutions in protective equipment, solutions with our hospitals. This is a time where I believe we are in a critical state of imagination, of reinvention, of creativity. And I say that it is more essential than ever before to be in this place of reimagining how we can find ourselves in a post-pandemic world. I'm really looking towards the future here. And at the same time, it's really important to honor the past, to honor those who have crossed over, those who have lost their lives to this virus. This pandemic has crossed a very tragic and unhappy milestone in the United States specifically, with more than 300,000 lives that have been lost. Each one of them are special. Each one of them hold a special place in our hearts. It's not a number. It's not a statistic. They're human beings that have loved ones that are still here, that have survived them and experienced the shock and the sadness of the loss of many people. And that unfortunately won't be the final number. It will continue to climb. We're finding ourselves in this place that it's 100 times more of the lives that have been lost than in 9/11. And by the end of this, possibly more people will be lost to COVID than in all of the wars America has fought in the last 100 years combined. So let us honor our brothers and sisters who have crossed over by bringing out a show that addresses solutions, that addresses information, that addresses forward movement and healing. And that's what we're doing today. I have three incredible guests. Moses Ma is one of the principal founders of Future Lab. He is an innovative consultant who works with senior executives at global companies. He's the managing partner of Future Lab Ventures, which is a high-tech venture incubator. He's created some pretty incredible things. His visionary self here has been praised in Time Magazine and New York Times, and over the years, he was a legendary games designer who created two of the world's best-selling computer games, including the world's first commercially successful internet game. So talk about an innovator in a critical time of innovation. Welcome, Moses. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having us.
Absolutely. And Fred Brown, he comes to the fight against COVID-19 from a 40-year career developing pharmaceutical solutions to fight infectious disease. And he has solved a myriad of challenges involving suppressing epidemics in the past. He's been on the discovery, development, and or launch teams of 27 major pharmaceutical, 13 diagnostic, and 6 vaccine products. And he's been assisting in Operation Warp Speed. He's currently consulting on the Biden-Harris COVID-19 task force. So welcome, Fred. Thank you for your time and being here today.
Thanks for having me.
It's great. And then Chris Pierce, he has released 8 independent albums worldwide. His hit song, We Can Always Come Back to This, was prominently featured in 3 separate scenes on the #1 U.S. primetime TV show, This Is Us. And he was nominated for Best Song Recording Created for Television. And his song that he's going to be Showing us today and playing for us today is United We Rise, and it has very deep meaning at this time. So thank you so much, Chris, for being here. Really appreciate you.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So I'm actually going to address this first question to Moses because he really brought together this team and has been at the forefront of creating certain technology around the around COVID for the past year, I would say. Tell me, Moses, what was your vision in bringing everyone together today?
Yeah, there's a really great book by Fareed Zakaria called 10 Lessons for a Post-Pandemic World. Lesson number 4 is that people should start listening to experts, but experts should start listening to people. And what we do is we add 3 more words: with their hearts. So one thing we've noticed is that experts kind of go into their brain and try to argue and scold people, and it's not working, right? So what we wanted to do was bridge the experts with people who can actually change hearts. And there's nothing more powerful than media, film and song that can do that. So we decided that we wanted to bring all of our epidemiologists and scientists and software developers into a room with songwriters and musicians and artists and put together something, because if you want the software to be successful, it has to contain the same spirit as the song. So we wanted to make technology that actually is more humanized by doing that. And at the same time, we wanted to learn the process of how do we bring musicians and songwriters and artists who normally say, oh, that's science, I don't want to deal with it, to have them embrace it and say, I can be a scientist too. Because if nerds like Fred and I can write a song, Chris can do science. So, and that's what we were hoping to pull off in this collaboration.
Well, I mean, Chris, you have really brought in this aspect of song, which brings us together. I mean, I love that music brings people together, and we really need that. I mean, we've got to end the energy and the calories we're burning on this polarization. And as I said earlier, we are so much stronger together. And music does that. What was, I mean, obviously the inspiration behind United We Rise came from this epidemic. Tell me specifically why you wrote the song.
Well, thank you for the question. And it's wonderful to be here. I am a small part of the song. I feel like I'm part of a giant team of beautiful hearts and innovative thinkers. I wrote the music to the song. Moses started with some lyrics, and then we got the team together and we did what we call sing storms. And everybody got together and collectively opened our hearts and our spirits and the analytical mind as well, and put it all together into a song that and lyrics that we felt would reach the spirit, the human heart in a large way. And then I just basically picked up my guitar and I did what I do. I started strumming and came up with a couple themes musically, and started let the words really sink in and be a part of. I feel like the lyrics have to be a part of your heart and spirit in order to make music with them. So I just started just living with the lyrics, and eventually collectively we came up with this song, and I'm just so happy to be a part of it.
One of the things that really touched me deeply around your song, and we will hear it in a little bit, but could you play the verse, the chorus part of it that talks about the 300,000, because that is it's memorable, it's deep, it has meaning, it's important. Do you mind just playing that piece?
Sure.
Ah.
300,000. So many of us are gone as we wipe away our tears, as we learn to soldier on. 300,000.
Yes, that's
far away from you. No comfort for our lost ones. no chance to bid adieu.
That's exactly, I'm going to stop you there because I want to hear the whole thing, but that's the piece there. Then that's the reason I started with this open this way. I mean, our beloved producer on the show has lost a dear loved one to this incredible virus, and it just doesn't feel fair, and it hurts, and it has taken many of our elderly. And so I felt that it was important to honor this as well as getting into the statistics around this. And let's talk about what we can do in terms of our future. Now, Fred, you have really looked at ways where I saw a couple of your classes that you were teaching at Harvard Business School about the virus and about this vaccine and what we see that might be a potential opportunity to become a leader and bring awareness about solutions around this vaccine. Can you tell us a little bit about it and what you've learned about the vaccine?
Well, there's some great news, Lisa, and that is that we've got two great vaccines. We're going to hear more about it. I'll be back tomorrow with the FDA about the Moderna material. That the pre-pack is out, and I've gone through that in a lot of detail. And I've worked on 6 vaccines, as you said. Most of them were the polyvalent vaccines that your children get now. If anyone's been to the hospital recently, they probably had my vaccines. But the reason they're so great is that they are 95% effective. You never see that. In the measles, it's 98%. That's the best we have, and 95% is at that level. And they have almost no safety consequences other than having some painful injection site issues. We haven't really seen any problems with the safety. So the great news about the vaccine is that that it's entirely scalable. It's a brand new set of technologies that we've just developed this year, and it's super exciting.
That's what I would like you to talk about, because I know there's concerns around the speed that this was processed, but there is a new approval process that's been changed forever now with the FDA. And I'd love it if you could talk about this accelerated vaccine approval process. We haven't heard so much about that. And what else does it help, by the way?
So the vaccines I worked on really hard, and it took me 10 years.
Yeah.
On average. About 9.5 years, as I recall. And the reason it took so long is because we had to really understand vaccines you're injecting into people who are healthy, and you have to tune just the right amount of immune response, not to give the people the disease, but to give them a response so they stop the disease. And getting that just right usually takes a long time. Well, this is a brand new technology that actually kind of does jiu-jitsu on the vaccine. It flips it so that you actually use the same mechanism as the virus does in order to stop it. And that's the first time I've been able to do that. So we actually take a little piece of the of the DNA of the virus DNA. We actually found out what the virus DNA was on January 11th. It was published. Within 2 days, we had a product ready to go because we worked on this area so long. And we were able to know that because we were able to look at what our little piece of DNA synthesized, a little part of the spike protein. We said, aha, we've got that covered now. And by March 17th, we were approved to go into humans. Normally that takes 4 or 5 years, and the reason it takes such a long time is because you're using a different technology that takes a lot longer to tune in to make sure that you're actually safe and effective. In this case, we were able to demonstrate that very, very rapidly because we had so much virus out there. So we were actually able to get out there, and if we hadn't had so much virus out there, that's the last thing that really takes us such a long time. I've been in places, we're all set up in Sierra Leone, and all of a sudden the outbreaks occur, in Liberia, and there you are with your whole clinical staff waiting to go, and you're in the wrong country. In this case, we had virus everywhere, so we were able to actually test it very rapidly. And those are the differences I think that this made, and it is just a huge accomplishment and a great vaccine.
So you take, just so people know, and I learned this from your work, is that what used to take 45 months now takes 45 days. What used to take 9 years to develop now takes 9 months because of this particular technology. But I just want to wrap my head around this. So you take a strand of the DNA of the protein of the virus, and then you put that in the vaccine so it creates an immune response in the host, right?
That's right. Yeah, and so you actually you actually produce this immune response from the virus's own genetic material, but not enough of the genetic material that you create the whole virus again, like the virus does to you. Instead, you create just enough to produce the spike protein, which the virus attacks our body with. And that creates antibodies that stop the virus first, gives you a first line of defense, and then it remembers it. And so the next time the virus attacks you for real, you're ready to go. And that's a huge difference versus what we usually have had to do in the past.
So it doesn't create the cytokine storm that the actual virus would create because it comes in such a large viral load, right?
You don't actually infect the person. So for the first time, we're actually able just to get a little part of the virus that then creates an immune response without infecting you. So it's a really great thing that we're.
Fascinating. So, and now I noticed that the amount of people that were tested were very low. What was the reason behind that?
So that actually was a mistaken policy. We should have been testing a lot more people in order to control the virus better right up front. And that's when I got involved with this. Moses knows this, but when we started off basically in February, what we do is we create these tests that then allow you to determine where the virus is. Well, we had a great test in Europe. We decided in the United States we wanted to make our own test, which is what our normal process is. On February 7th, I started getting worried, and because normally we'd have the test out. So I started calling around, and none of the labs had our new test from the CDC. So by February 15th, everything had sort of gone quiet. By that time, the virus goes on, actually replicates exponentially. So the problem is that it goes 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. By the time you realize that it's on you, it's overwhelming you. And so if you're looking at death rates like Italy was, or if you're looking at hospitalization rates, that's way too long because it's already got so many generations more of cycle to go through that by the time you respond in our own human systems are more linear, you're overwhelmed by the exponential growth of the virus. And so by February 15th, we didn't have a test. And we knew that this is all, the virus is doubling all this period of time. By February 30th, we sent out the alarms. And by that time, it was already too late. And that's disappointing. So I'm looking at, I look at the Johns Hopkins. I work with Johns Hopkins. We created this, map early on because we wanted to watch the rise and the fall of coronavirus. So it'd be interesting as scientists to watch that. And sadly, we're watching now, at 73 million, almost 74 million cases around the country, around the world. It's just 16 million, almost 17 million cases in the United States now. And sadly, over 300,000 deaths, 306,000 deaths, which actually we predicted already in March was a highly likely scenario, sadly.
I remember. Yeah. And I saw, that you just look at the statistics and the numbers and the level of the contagious aspects of this virus, and it definitely knows how to replicate itself and spread so easily. Now, I want to ask you, Moses, you've been at the forefront of bringing these types of solutions together so that we can decentralize. I know that you've been at the forefront of the Bitcoin movement and so forth. How do we decentralize a way of tracking people who would potentially be interested in getting, in finding the effects or looking at the side effects of a vaccine like this?
Yeah, so our company participated with in a strategy engagement with UNICEF around the polio vaccine. So first of all, I have to tell you, it's an incredibly exciting engagement because UNICEF said, you need to fly to Somalia and Pakistan to see the situation on the ground. And, we had no idea how dangerous it is, right? So we're flying into Mogadishu airport and there are crashed airplanes around, the airstrips. And then when we show up at Pakistan, we're in a meeting of marketing people that are talking about promoting the polio vaccine. And one of the people gets kidnapped. It was actually quite dangerous. The road that we took a month after us, two UNICEF workers actually died in an IED explosion. So it takes actually some courage to go and address this. And that's an opportunity for all of America, that we have to shift from the me mode to seeing that vaccination is an active service, that all of us together can actually do that testing right now to make sure it's safe for the rest of us. So anyway, I did have one great story about um, the biggest problem we're facing in these technologies isn't around the actual, CRISPR and DNA. It's around social hesitancy around vaccines. So the biggest problem that the polio vaccine had, which was, an inactivated virus, which could actually spring back up and give you a different form of polio later, right? So the new vaccines are actually quite brilliant. But we were looking at why people were refusing to take the vaccine, and it was basically because of the Bin Laden raid, which caused the Taliban to say that we're going to put a fatwa on anyone who takes the vaccine, and started killing polio workers. So we were trying to figure out how this was happening, and the way that the Taliban did that was by spreading conspiracy theories. So their favorite theories were that George Bush urinated in the culture, that the culture wasn't halal, that used pig parts, that it was to sterilize people. And then so we had to go in and kind of deconstruct these conspiracy theories, figure out how to address them, have videos of religious leaders actually say, no, we've been to the Philippines, the facility is halal. Um, but the best example of the shift that it took, which is actually the message for America, is in a train station. I was just meeting people and saying, "Can you talk to us about, your attitudes to the polio vaccine?" And this grandmother with a bunch of kids, she said, "Okay, she'll talk to me." And I found that most of the polio workers who were Americans would just like act like scientists. Instead, because I was raised Muslim, I would say "Salam alaikum," which actually made them open up to me and tell me what was going on. So this grandmother, she said, my husband is part of the Taliban, and said none of the grandchildren can get inoculated. And I said, oh, that's so what did you end up doing? He said, well, my son is a doctor in Lahore, which is like a great thing for a Pakistani woman to say. And he said, don't listen to grandpa, get them all, inoculated. So what it was is that you need to listen to someone that you know personally and trust in order to get this message through. So that's why we're trying to roll out our new technologies through medical schools, because those people can in fact impact their families and communities better than anyone else at the social level. And actually, the moral to the story, which I thought was hilarious, is I asked this grandmother, so what did you do? You have you have your husband, the patriarch of the family, saying, don't do it, and you have your son doing it. And she looked at me, and just like Solomon, she said, I gave it to half of them, which I thought was a hilarious solution, right?
Well,
But it
I
was
mean,
like the reality.
there, especially in the U.S., there's a lot of concern around vaccines. There's a lot of what we've seen around the vaccine courts and people that had pre-existing allergies that they were undetected against certain elements in the vaccine. Is there anything in this vaccine that have caused any types of allergies in other vaccines? Maybe.
Fred should answer this about the removal of thimerosal.
Thank you.
The mercury has been removed. But the other thing you should look at, right now, the vaccine, the virus is killing 1 out of 1,000 Americans. Vaccines generally have a death rate of 1 in a billion, right? So you're basically trading something that's more dangerous for something that is honestly much less dangerous, but it's still dangerous. Even aspirin has like a death rate that's worse than a vaccine. Fred, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'd love, Fred, if you could talk a little bit about that. What elements in this vaccine could cause allergies? Because we did see that had happened in the UK.
Yeah. So the ingredients are a little bit. So first of all, it's a lipid encased RNA molecule, and lipids are just fats. They're going to be a little bit thicker to inject in, so we've got a little bit more injection site irritation than normal, and then a fully liquid one. But other than that, what we look at in safety are a couple things. We've only been testing this drug for about 2 months now. We've got 2 months of data for a large number of people. So it's about we've tested about 44 plus 30,000, so 70, almost 100,000 people have been tested.
That does not feel like enough. It really doesn't. It's not funny. Why are you laughing?
Yeah, well, because statistically what we do is we look at exclusion criteria, and the exclusion criteria in this particular case were not very broad. In other words, we allowed almost everyone who wanted to have a vaccine and participate in the trial to be entered. We didn't try to say just the people under 55 or just the people who don't have allergies, or we did exclude serious allergies. So we saw when we lifted that exclusion criteria, there were 2 women in England who did have a adverse event. They were used to that. They had the EpiPen with them. And there are ways of, talk to your doctor if you've got that issue, but there are ways of reducing that issue. We can use Benadryl up front. You can bring your EpiPen with you. You can sit and make sure that you have an adverse event for a slightly longer period than we're recommending others. So there are ways of controlling that are beyond the clinical trial protocols. And then we take a look at the kinds of things that happened. And we looked at, so we don't have any real exclusion criteria except pregnant women and breastfeeding women, people with high level of allergy, and people who were also already exposed. We didn't want to have that conflicting question of whether the immunization came as a result of people being sick or having the vaccine, right? But other than that, we allowed everyone into this trial. 100,000 people statistically can give you an awful lot of great data, and this is all over the world. We didn't, every ethnicity, every men and women, all these things were very standard, which is great. So if you think about polling, and in a political trial, we poll 1,000 people, and we're saying we're getting a confidence interval between 1% and 2% of being accurate here. We're talking about 100,000 people. So suddenly you can actually look at very precise populations. Is this person over 65? Do they have these 3 medical conditions? Are they of this race? Have they had this? Are they part of this part of society, and so on? So we can get very small buckets of people, very focused buckets of people. Say, here we've got an issue, here we don't have an issue. So we're already looking at that, and we found this. We just found this less than usually in the Moderna trials. We look at systemic adverse events. It was a handful of people who took this drug. So out of 15,000 people, less than 10 had an adverse event that would affect your body organs. In the Pfizer drugs, it was slightly higher, but in that we're talking about less than 0.1% of the population who was injected, which is very small.
I'm not an expert at this at all, but I always thought that it would be so great if there was a pre-test to a vaccine that would show if you have this predisposition or this detoxification pathway that is not eliminating or certain types of precursor tests, then you can actually find if this vaccine would be safe for you. I've always wanted that to happen, but I have no idea about the science of it.
We are developing those, actually. We're developing biological markers that are looking at that quite carefully. We are looking at whether you've got a serological positivity for the disease in advance of taking the test, and so we are looking for those biomarkers now and able to screen for that.
Great. That would be great with all vaccines, honestly. All right. So I want to go back to there's so much to talk about here, but Fred, you have really been in the middle of bringing this together in a heart space. And as you mentioned earlier, Moses, with what it means to lose lives and what it means to go through the pain that we've endured. This virus has done so much more than the loss of life. It's the loss of businesses. It's the loss of homes. It's the loss of so much. There are so many people that are standing in lines that cannot feed themselves right now. So the interest in coming up with solutions around this is very, very high. So tell me a little bit about this, Chris. Who have you been able to talk to about this song and the movement behind the song that you're talking about with United We Rise?
Well, my hope is that this song is the beginning of many songs, of a medley that we're all singing. It's a call to arms to not only artists, but people in our communities, people in the Black community who are rightfully so discouraged about getting vaccines because of some of the history that we have in this country, and economically hit as well in severe ways. So, through the soulfulness of music and reaching out through the heart, through sound. I mean, music has this way of cutting through these static and isolated feelings that we carry around every day and bring us together to unite under one sonic roof. And so, and that's my hope with the song. And I know that I sing in unison with everybody that's worked on this. I'm hoping for more artists to create more songs of action, calls to action.
Yes. Yeah.
Really do bring their hearts together, bring their minds together. I'm hoping this inspires others to do the same. And that's what this is. Hopefully, it's the beginning of a consciousness on a higher ground for a lot of people to come together and do creative things to their hearts and be uncomfortable and do things that they with people and in ways that they're not normally used to, and be open to that, because isn't that what is life without emotion, right? And
yes, absolutely. Emotion and creativity.
Yes. Yeah.
And I understand that this song, you are attempting to get to the inauguration. Moses, do you have any news about that?
Fred, do you want to mention?
Yes, we've talked to some of the people who are with the Biden campaign, and we're hoping that they like the song. We've got the final version over to them today. So you're hearing it first, Lisa. We wouldn't give it to anyone before we gave us a clear go ahead on it. But they will, hopefully they'll like it, and if they do, I think you'll hear in Chris's messages that I think it's just the right thing for the inauguration. At least we think so.
That's great. Let's hear it for the first time here on the Aware Show. This is Chris Pierce's "United We Rise."
300,000. So many of us are gone as we wipe away our tears, as we learn to soldier on. 300,000. So far away from view, no comfort for our lost ones, no chance to bid adieu. Let's come together. It's time to lift our eyes. Let us grieve for our fallen. United we will rise. 300,000 reasons to take a turn. Change, it has to come. It's a lesson we must learn. 300,000, and sadly more to come. We wear our masks to share the love as we learn to act as one. People, let's come together. It's time to dry our eyes. We can meet this challenge. United we rise. Each of us can change our fate. Standing up to vaccinate. Our future ain't cast in stone. Let's not face this darkness alone. 300 million. Come on, let's unify. Time to spread the truth and turn away the lies. 300 million. There's nothing we can't do if we act as one. United we'll break through. People, let's come together. It's time to lift our eyes. We can meet this challenge. United we rise. We can meet this challenge. United we rise. Oh, we can fix this country. United we rise. The world can be defeat this virus. United we rise. A family's final kiss is something we've all missed. So long, adieu. The world misses you. So long, adieu. The world misses you. 300,000.
Amazing. I mean, we needed, yes, that level of upliftment, that level of, it's also a reality check. The fact that you honor this 300,000 again and again as the chorus of this, Chris, is something that we can't forget. We can get so lost in the numbers and the polarization and the vaccine and all of that. What about the lives that have been lost as a result of this? So thank you so much for honoring our lost loved ones and those to come. But hopefully we can do something about that. Fred, I wanted to actually go back to this and ask you about the how long the vaccine would last. Do people need to take this yearly, like a flu shot, or do you know enough about that yet?
We only have about 200 days of data
Okay.
so far with people who've taken the vaccine. So we're still waiting to see what the results are going to be. Right now, I can say that there's a lot of argumentation, and we're going to have to see who's right. On the prior vaccines we've had around coronavirus, we've got about 18 months. We're hoping that it's going to be longer. We're seeing better tighter levels than on those other vaccines. And what's interesting is that we actually, with these vaccines, believe it or not, we have a better immune response to these vaccines than we do to the actual virus. That's extremely rare.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And so we're hopeful that these titers will remain at level for at least the 18 months that we're getting now, and hopefully simply with a booster shot you'll be able to maintain. There may be some populations who need a booster shot more often than others. We'll have to check that, but that is the critical question. You're right. That is
right.
Really the question.
And do you know if someone has had the virus, do they need the vaccine?
Yes. Absolutely. Turns out, as I said, the immune response to with the vaccine is actually better than with the virus. And so what we do is, if you are walking around having been immune because you've had the disease, you'll have a short-term immunity, probably 4 or 5 months, and then it starts to decline sufficiently that you're going to be able to get reinfected again, at least for some parts of the population. So you want to have 2 shots. 2 shots. Don't just stop with 1. So it's a challenge, a challenge for us, because we actually need to have 2 shots. The Pfizer shot within 21 days, generally within 28 days. There is 1 shot, Johnson & Johnson, that's coming through with just 1 shot. We're excited about that because the hard to reach populations, it'll be great to be able to go once and be done. But that's a special.
Is the reason for the 2 shots because it builds the immunity stronger?
That's right. It builds the immunity longer and stronger. So what you have is a decay curve, and what you do is the first shot will get you to about the same level as when you've gotten the disease. It'll be about and then the next shot will actually get you at will get you quite a bit almost an order of magnitude more. And so if you think about the decay, you've got to come down a lot further in order to get them be able to be re-exposed to the virus, so the virus has a chance against you. So that's the reason we try to get those immune systems up far.
I'm so surprised there's not more information like this out there. You need to just do a tutorial here. Put all of these things. This is the most common questions. The other random thing I want to know about is, what does 90% efficacy mean? Is that as opposed to maybe the 10% efficacy of the flu shots? Is that the same theory?
It's very similar. There are 2 different kinds of efficacy. One is for symptoms, and the other is for transmissibility. Turns out transmissibility is a lot more interesting for us than symptoms. Symptoms just mean you can transmit the disease, but you yourself won't get as sick. Transmissibility means you get the disease and you can't transmit it further. And then you stop that logarithmic growth we talked about earlier. So that's exciting. We don't know yet. We haven't actually tested for transmissibility. Interestingly, Moderna put into their last submission that they think they're going to impact transmissibility by between 40 and 60%, depending on how you do the calculations. That's a huge number. It's as important, believe it or not, as something that's symptomologically different that brings things down by 90%. There are a few reasons for that, but let me just say that the way we measure this is you go and you take the vaccine in a blinded study. So you have a placebo group who got saline, and you've got a group that got the vaccine. And they go out into the world, and then suddenly they say, I'm not feeling so good. And they say, well, let's take the test. Oh, you've got COVID. And they say, okay, then you mark that person as having COVID. A few months later, you get about Pfizer actually had about 170 people that had COVID. And then we open it up and we say, who had the vaccine and who had placebo? And it turned out only 8 of the 170 people had been vaccinated. 162 of the people were just given the saline solution. And so that is a 90%, 5% difference. And that's how we get the effect of this.
Now, do all vaccines, like say, for example, the MMR and so forth, do they all work on this immune response philosophy that the vaccine is that you're describing, by introducing to the immune system small trace amounts of the virus and causing the body to go into that response?
That's the whole idea, is you try to stimulate the body so that it does two things. First, it produces antibodies so that it blocks the next virus that comes in, makes it harder for it to fight and get into your cells. And the second thing is we try to create a memory so that the vaccine remembers and says, I remember that, and produces even more antibodies. Those two factors then are the basis for all the vaccines, and actually the basis for your own inherent immune system. That's how, if you get the disease first, it remembers it, and then you're able to fight it more effectively. For the case of vaccines, we know we need to get better with COVID because it doesn't give you enough of a long-term effect, and so we need the vaccine to help you with the long-term effect.
Okay.
I actually have an analogy for you.
Yes.
Getting COVID and recovering is sort of like getting into a boxing ring and slugging it out. This vaccine that's targeted for the weak spot, the spike virus, it's like asking Muhammad Ali to come in and go after the virus and knock it out, right? So it's literally an order of magnitude harder punching, and it goes directly to the weak spot, which is the head. So I think that's a good analogy for seeing how this works. And natural immunity is good, but this is actually kind of a breakthrough. I predict that many other new kinds of medicines will be produced on top of mRNA, and it's actually a breakthrough for humanity, and has consequences as significant as the moonshot or the Human Genome Project.
Interesting. So this is a different type of technology as opposed to the MMR type of vaccine that didn't go after the RNA of the virus. You're going after this protein slicing.
Yeah, and plus it could never reactivate, right? So if you basically take weakened viruses and stick it in, there's a chance you'll catch it. But here, there's not enough of the DNA to recreate the virus. So it's literally going after the head of your opponent with Muhammad Ali. You're just going to knock that one thing out.
That's what I love about you, Moses, is you really know how to explain things too.
In terms that people can understand, right?
That the layperson can understand. Is there a minimum age of somebody that should be a minimum age to take the vaccine?
Yes, we haven't actually tested in people below the age of 16 years old. So we're doing those bridging studies now, and I think that by the summer we'll have we'll understand the dosing for children, because it is a different dose. They have a different kind of immune system than adults. But anyone over the age of 16 for Pfizer, anyone over the age of 18 for Moderna can take the
perfect. So you're not giving it to babies, and this is very important at this point. Okay, now Moses, I've been a little bit onto some phone calls with you where you were talking about creating an app that could really help people understand if they have had any outcomes or any measures of anything like that. Are you still working on this? It's like a vaccine companion app where you can tell if you've had any side effects, and it's decentralized, so it's not controlled by any one company. Did I get that right at all?
or any one government.
Yeah. So it's true. So you are
Yeah,
doing.
so we do have some technology, but these technologies need to be applied by a government or a public health department. So we can't just like release an app; it won't have any impact. However, I think the real issue is we don't what the U.S. could really use is what we call a national vaccine registry, where everybody just says, "Okay, yeah, take my name off of it, but this is who I am. I got this shot, and I report." They're called PROMs, patient-reported outcome measures. And I had this reaction, or I had this, or it worked for me. If we could even get 1 million people to do that in the US, we would have more than enough data to validate this quickly. So we're recommending that. And we've partnered with Stanford University to work on the science of that. Hopefully, we've applied for funding from the National Science Foundation and the National Institutes of Health, and hopefully they'll fund us. But we've learned that governments are very slow. That viruses move in exponential time. Governments move in geological time. It's actually kind of not the right thing. What we want to do is create a technology that can do what we call crowd sensing of micro outbreaks. We want to be able to. Our app also has a bubble manager, so you can actually create bubbles. And if somebody, like if your kids' classroom, classmates, parents, uncle got sick, it would actually send that information to you so you could do something about it and be able to crowd sense it and to have an agile lockdown so that it would reduce that. If you do lockdowns kind of faster, the economic impact is less than 1% of doing it for the whole country at once. So basically, if you have to do a lockdown for an entire country, you've already failed.
So this really gives a way for people to show, not only to have your own opinion around your experience of this vaccine, but putting it into a place where people can see it. They can see the regions where the experience, if it's a positive or a not so positive one, and people can start to. Now it can't be regulated since it's decentralized. It can't be monitored. It can't be edited in order to build the trust, right?
So we're proposing to put a blockchain in, just as Bitcoin can let people send money without a government like telling you what to do. Sometimes governments aren't very good at reporting information, right? They'll try to suppress it because they're afraid that it'll be bad for tourism or it'll be bad for economics. And what we want is to take that data and put it on a blockchain where it can't be, where it becomes immutable, and you can use that as core data that you could use to manage what we call a pandemic prevention kit for the future. So this is an area that people are talking about. It's what's called syndromic intelligence, or looking for symptoms. And if it flares up, you do something about it sooner. So right now we actually have a very slow reaction process that makes it virtually impossible to move quickly against viruses. So we need to actually become smarter. And what's happening in America is that's actually being learned. America is sort of like a baby that has to fall to learn how to walk. So this pandemic is basically skinning our knees. It hurt, but it didn't kill us. And if you think about it, one of the lines of the song is, we wipe away our tears and learn to soldier on. One of the reasons we haven't grieved for 300,000 is that America is brave, and so is the whole world. We've actually soldiered on. We're doing what it takes to make it happen. And people are like not grieving, but it's actually not good to not grieve forever, right? We need to have a period. And this is a good, 300,000 is a good milestone to kind of stop and breathe and then connect and to decide what we want to do in the future, which is to react more intelligently to these global threats, which actually include things like climate change later. So this might be a lesson that we learn that will help solve that problem at a later time.
And social justice, and so many different ways that we can, this would be a wonderful thing to bring to our world so that we can get ahead of, and it puts the power back in the hands of the people too. But then we can learn about these types of movements and strengths and weaknesses. I do feel that grieving is part of the human experience, and we do need that collective moment to be able to, not just a moment, but it's a continuing process, grief is. So it does need to be honored. And I know that you also have another song that you wanted to share with us, Chris, around Well, tell us what this one is themed around.
This one is called American Silence, and I agree with you. I think we're in a time, a very promising time. This is a year when folks opened up their minds and got on the streets and got together in masses to speak together. And whether you agree with what folks were saying or not, the notion that folks were engaging in that way and activating around issues that they never have in their lifetime, and the fact that we had the space and the time and the stillness to do that and to be with those and address those problems. That's what this song is about. This song is about really it's about white complacency, and it's about it's a call to encourage people to not just march when it's popular and when it's on social media and when you see other people doing it, to fight for justice and to fight for change. Make it a daily practice. See what you can do every day, and don't let your own comfort take over and be more important than the lives of others. And so that's what this song is about. It's American Silence.
Okay.
Will you rise up when your comfort is in jeopardy? Will you resist justifying the complexities? Is simplicity convenient in your quest to pacify? When you look in the mirror, can you see your own disguise? Can we sing a song for you? Will music move your heart and mind? Will our song arrest you? American silence is a crime. We see the music move you as you lay your burden down. We feel the music grip you as your heart is soaked in sound. And when the song is over, if you decide to clap aloud, will your applause mean anything with stitches on your mouth? Can we sing a song for you? Will music move your heart and mind? Will our song arrest you? American silence is a crime. We sing for the freedom, we fight for all it's worth. We sing for humanity so we can all walk the earth. We sing with honor to live to sing another song. We sing through the pain and we'll keep on marching on. Can we sing a song for you? Oh, will music move your heart and mind? Will our song arrest you? American silence. American silence. American silence is a crime. Oh, it is a crime.
Thank you so much. That was a wonderful, beautiful song. You have so much passion when you sing, and it really brings it home, gives me chills. Thank you so much, Chris. And to all of you, thank you all for your contribution to everything that you're doing here. This has been a fantastic show, bringing together the heart through what you're talking about, Chris, and the science, Fred, what you're talking about, and the tech, Moses, of what you're talking about. It shows, it's back to the very beginning of the show, that we all need to be in this together, to bring together all aspects of our expertise, to listen to our own hearts, and to bring us right into our hearts, and to find solutions so that we can live together in a harmonious way without viruses. Thank you very much, so much to all of you. Thank you, Moses. Yes, and I thank you so much, Fred, because I do feel that we are going to use these new technologies to map across to cancers and other different types of illnesses, that it's really been a groundbreaking. This is going to be one of the turning points in our medical biotech history. So thank you. And thank you, Chris, for bringing us all into our hearts. And I am so grateful that you're all here. And until next time, I invite you to stay aware.